Welcome to the class 2. Let's continue with the basics of Blender. Let's study in depth. Let's understand the interface of the Blender and let's make learning 3D very easy and fun. So let's start. So today we'll cover some of these tools. So you can see here it is telling about view object types. So if you go here and if you see, we can hide and unhide the geometries. Like for example, the mesh, the geometry which you are seeing this object. So you can hide, unhide. And you can also see we have camera and light. And if you have hundreds of different varieties of object, all those you can, hide and unhide that particular. In the future, we also going to learn, how to create car modeling, character modeling, assets modeling, all those. So on that time, we require always the image reference. We put the image reference and we may sometime hide the reference. Or when we are doing the animation, we may sometime, lock the reference or, log the geometry, hide the geometry. Many, places this options is very useful. Just go through, just explore. Like you can't see light. Yeah, here we have light, so you can see here light. I can hide and hide. I can hide and hide the camera. And there is one more next to that is looking like an arrow kind of thing. This is for selectability actually. Okay, like for example, I can select this geometry, but if I don't want to select the geometry, you can always go and click the selectability. And if you select now, see, I'm not able to select the geometry. Okay, so it's like a freeze in our 3ds Max, right? In 3ds Max, that is freeze, like we place the image reference in all the viewports and we freeze so that we can trace it. The same way here they have given the selectability option. It's very easy. Just click. In the same way, anything you can hide and hide, or you can also click the selectability like light off. So next time I can't even select this. Okay, so for now, bring it back. Let's go for the next one. Gizmo. These are all related to the gizmo actually. Gizmo means, when we select a geometry using the move, rotate, scale tool, this all creates its own gizmos, right? Let's bring it to the default one. We'll go through. So these are all called gizmo tools. All this handles or gizmo handles. So we can control some of them using here. Like you can see object gizmo. This is one useful one. And the same option you can even see here. It is similar. Okay, so we can also tell, I want to have this combination of move, rotate, scale always. So when I click, okay, and you can see I have switched on this move, rotation and scale tool by default access. Okay, so let's go to the select mode. See, now in the select mode I have all this active. So you can active, so like instead of going for this icons, you can just select and everything will be active. Select and it's done. So no need to go for any other extra tools like move, rotate, scale. Everything is active. So for now I'll just turn it off. And let's see the next one. Viewport overlays. In the viewport overlays, you can see the color, like green color y-axis, red color x-axis. So this colors, if you want to hide and hide for some case, okay, you can go here, you can switch it off. Or if I want to hide the floor only, and if I want to hide everything, see, like this we can do it. So here the grid here is called as floor. It's already freeze. So floor you can hide and hide, and if you want to see the colors, you can switch it on. Even Z also you can switch on, but it is not in default. If you want, you can go for it. In the same way, you can also see your 3D cursor. This is the, as I told, it's a unique thing in Blender. So if you want to hide unhide, even that you can do. And you can also see there is one dot here that is called a transform point, right? So when we select the geometry, so it will go to that point and everything is calculated from this point. The geometry's main transform point is in the center, right? So even that also we have here hide unhide, like origin. It is called origin here. Okay, in Photoshop and all we call pivot point, right? So here it is called origin. So like that, no, many options we have. We have another some of the options like geometry is related wire. So you can even switch on and you can see we have the mode of shaded as well as wireframe both at a time. So where is that? It's here, geometry wire. Okay, and you can play with the wire thickness and opacity, all those you can play around. And face orientation, this is another very important which we see in Maya unwrapping time. Face orientation, same they have kept here, very useful option. We can also see whether we are working on the facing side or whether we are working on the inner side. See, so now I am inside the cube, right? So this is called opposite side of the normal. What is the normal? Normal means direction of the face. See, each poly are looking in a different direction, right? So these are all facing side of the normal. And if you go inside, this is the opposite side, right? So sometimes while working, no, it may give us a problem. Like when we render, some polys may not render because it may face in an opposite side, or there are many other purpose to solve. All those we may go for this face orientation even in the texturing part and all. So keep in mind, just explore. Okay, see, face orientation, the blue color is telling that the geometries are all facing towards the camera itself. And if you go inside, these are all opposite of the face. Actually, these are all opposite of the face. So there's the next option. These are all X-ray different modes. Okay, I'll tell you like where it will be very helpful. Okay, so let's go to the edit mode. We'll go more in depth in the edit mode in the next coming videos. So I'll just switch on this edit mode. Edit mode is to go inside the component level and edit the components of the geometry. Like I can select the geometry component, like vertex I have selected, and I can move around the component. Okay, so in this case, like let's say for example, I want to select the entire vertex. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just click and drag. Let's go back to the default one. So I'll just click and drag the entire vertex. So what is happening here? When I click and drag, we may think we have selected the entire vertex. Okay, but if I turn around here, we have not selected the two vertex, which is not at all facing towards us. So that is there. We need to pass through this geometry to select that. Okay, so in this case and all, this mode is very helpful, X-ray mode. So when you switch on X-ray, it's looking like a see-through. Don't think it is a transparent texture. It is not a texture. We'll learn about how to make the geometry transparent, like glass, all those. Okay, but this is the see-through, so that we can see through and we can select the entire vertex. So that is the option of this X-ray mode. Okay, if I want to, for example, select only the top without this X-ray mode, if I select, then we know we have not selected this, right? So on that case, you can go for this. Okay, so when you select any of this mode, you can also go here right side, there is a drop down, and you can see this option. We'll go this one by one. So next to the X-ray mode, you can see there is one more viewport shading, that is wireframe mode. Okay, so when you switch on, now we are seeing everything as a wire. Okay, it's not a X-ray, just switch off the X-ray. Now this is everything is a wire. Okay, we are more concentrating of wire, and you can also switch on the mode of X-ray. Now it is a real actual wireframe mode, means I am seeing the model only as a edge wireframe mode. That is there in other software also. So let's switch it on and switch it off this X-ray mode. Okay, you can also go with this combination. So this is the default mode called solid mode, where we can see the solid color of the geometry. And next one is the metal preview. Metal preview is like previewing the texture which we have applied for the geometry. Okay, like for example, we have not applied any color, any texture on this geometry. I'll just show you the very basics of it. So in the right side, if you scroll down, you can see there is a metal property. Okay, so this round icon. So when you click this, now you can see we have a metal which is already assigned by default, and what kind of surface is there, and we can also see the color. So I'll just change the color like somewhere around red. Okay, so I change it, but where I am not seeing the geometry change it to red color, because I am inside the solid allows you to see everything in a grayscale mode. That will be very useful, okay, when you are working on a huge geometry. Okay, because when you switch on this one, we may see all the shading modes. Okay, and it takes a little bit of resource of the system also. So I'll switch on this. Now you are able to see the coloring part. So that is this mode called shading metal preview mode. Okay, so this is just a shading solid mode. This is shading with the metal preview mode. And the last one, this one is called render mode. Render mode is converting this 3D scene to 2D image. Okay, to take output, right? See, anything when you take output, everything is an image based only, no? The video also a image sequence. So this 3D, if I want to take as an image, then that is called rendering. Converting the entire 3D scene to a 2D image is called rendering. So we have a separate rendering option, and even the right side you can see output properties, the printer icon, where we can go and tell what size we require. You can see it is in 1920 1080, the HD resolution size. Okay, so this is to take the output, but what is this is the mode. Okay, in this mode it is telling like how it looks in render. We can see it in live. Okay, so just click, see, this is what it's showing. This is this kind of mode. This is the look which you render, but we always keep in mind one more thing. We always render through the camera eyes. Okay, we always render through the camera eyes. So you need to switch on this camera. Whatever we are seeing through the camera, that's what we are going to render. Let's come out of this for now. And what render mode will show, see, this mode will show the grayscale, just as grayscale without a metal. This mode will show the color and metal preview of the model. This mode will also add on one more, rendering values. Okay, the output values, where we can see it in live, and you can also move this light around, and you can position your light. See, so in the render mode, you can also interact in live with your light, and you can see like how it looks when you are going to take this for output. Okay, and again we are using only one object, so I can work on this very fastly. But later on, when we are going to create a very big scene, then it takes more amount of resource. So always keep it in solid so that you can work faster. And the last one is the extra options. Okay, so whichever you select, you can find some extra options. So let's talk about this extra options. So for this, I'll just change my geometry. I'll delete this. Let's add a geometry. I'll add the monkey. So we got a monkey here. And let's go to this option. So you can see studio, and This is what the studio color is. Okay, the grayscale, all the model will look in grayscale in the shading mode, right? Shading solid mode, because this is what is switched on. Okay, lighting studio is in grayscale. So if you select this, we can also change the way it shades the geometry. Okay, we can play around the lighting value of the lights. These are all defaults. Okay, this will not affect for your final output render. Keep in mind, this is only for our viewport shading. It is not for output. Okay, this will not come for output. This is only for the viewport shading, like look and feel of your viewport shading. So you can change. See, now I changed the look and feel, the shading value of the viewport shading. The viewport shading lighting is only for preview purpose or look and feel purpose. It's not for output. Okay, in the same way they have kept some other modes also. If you want, you can change it, like matte cap. What is that matte cap? Matte cap is material capture. Okay, they already captured the material values and they have kept, that is called matte cap. So if you go inside, you can see the metal property. Like you can see it's looking shiny. This is looking like car paint kind of texture. So you can just apply and you can see it is having more reflection on the geometry. These are all baked material, means already captured one. The material is already captured and we are applying on the geometry. And again, I am telling you, if you go for the render, it won't apply. So I'll just show you rendering. This is where we can go and click on this render. So it will give the render output of the image. See, we have changed the light angle, so only we are seeing the light value and the shadow value, and we are not seeing any shades of this viewport. Okay, so these are all for preview purpose. Let's switch it back. Flat mode is just a flat color, and we can see we can change many of the values here. Okay, so let's go back to the studio, and the theme, background theme is the default Blender background theme for the environment. That also you can change it to word. Okay, or according to the viewport, you can even change the color of it. These are all again for preview purpose. Okay, so let's switch it back to the theme. And this is one very useful option called back face culling. The back face culling, if you switch on, you will not get to know what is happening here. I'll show it in a different example. This is the same name which I have seen in 3ds Max, back face culling. They have kept the same name here. So let's see. Let's add a plane. The plane is added, center of the word, and scale this. Why it has added in center of the word? Because of this 3D cursor. We'll go through that one. So I added this plane, and we know this is the facing side, and if I rotate this, this is not the facing side, it is the opposite side of the plane. Okay, and we should not think like this is the facing side and do the model. Okay, this is the facing side and we need to keep this is as a facing and we need to start creating the model. So in this case we'll get confused because both are looking same. Which is the facing side I want to do the modeling? So on that time, one option which we have seen is going through this viewport overlays and switch on face orientation, which I already told you. So we need to always do the model which faces to the facing side of this blue color. Okay, red is the opposite side of that face. Okay, so our model should always look blue color. This is the opposite side. That is one. The another one, I'll just turn off this. Another useful option is back face culling. When you switch on this, the facing side will look like, yes, it's in a gray color, but the opposite side will become magic, means like transparent. See, no object at all now, right? It's completely transparent. So I can see only in the facing side, not in the opposite. Very useful option for some of the VFX tricks and even for image reference. If you manually position the image reference on a plane, Then we can make it the opposite side as a transparent. Only in the front side we can see the image reference. Same thing like how we apply in the 3D aspect side. So another very option to understand which is the facing side. So let's turn it back. Let's delete this geometry. I'll show you one more very useful. And let's check first. We can also create a low poly modeling. I think you have seen. If you have not seen, you can just browse net. Telling a low poly model. The low poly model will be having only this, jagged edges without any smooth, and it will be very less number of polygons will be there. So for that, people sometimes apply this called cavity. So let's switch on this cavity. See how it is looking. This is called cavity. So for very low poly modeling, low poly designs, very useful, right? Cavity. And we can also play around the other value. Like I want the cavity type of both. See now, which is having a cavity of even shading. So very useful to create a different stylized low poly modeling environments of this. So just turn off, bring it back to the default, turn it off. When we create any geometry, it creates on the position of the 3D cursor. Let's add a geometry. You can go to the menu of this add and we can add anything. You can also go for a shortcut key called Shift A to add the geometry. Let's add a geometry like sphere. So we can even change the default, of this position of the 3D cursor. Like you can hold a Shift and right click. Say I'm changing the default position of the 3D cursor. Like in some case, okay, if I want to add a geometry somewhere here, so I can hold Shift and I will right click. But be careful, we are using the perspective viewport. Don't use the perspective viewport always, as I told, okay? So because we may think like, I have positioned this 3D cursor on this grid line, and if you click and rotate by holding your middle mouse, see, the 3D cursor is not exactly positioned on this grid line. It is on the space actually. So only I told, don't use this much, okay? Don't use your perspective viewport to position. So how to bring this back? So that is Shift C. So when you hold Shift C, automatically the 3D cursor is back to the center of the 3D world. So let's go to the top view. Now Alt and Shift, right click and rotate and see. Now it is exactly positioned in that area. So use your orthographic mode, okay, as I told even in the class one, like this, okay. Now when I add Shift A, that is the shortcut key to add the object. See here, I can add the cube in the position of the 3D cursor, okay. Very useful option, right? And one more, if I want to position this 3D cursor on the surface, it is also very easy. So you want to just hold Shift and right click. See, it always snaps on the surface. That is also one more useful option. Like I want to snap it on this side of the surface, Shift and just right click. See, it snaps on the surface directly. And the next geometry which you create, it always creates in that particular position of the 3D cursor. Let's delete this. Let's bring it back. What is the shortcut key to bring the 3D cursor back to the word? Shift C. So we'll talk about more, okay, about this 3D cursor use. Okay. So for now, I want to move this geometry in x-axis. You know that you can hold this in one axis and you can move like this, right? But when you are using the shortcut key, okay, this is the very most used shortcut key called G. G is to move the geometry, okay? G for moving the geometry, okay? In the same way, all this we are seen, right? R for rotate and S for scaling. Now I have done some changes of the transformation. I want to bring this back. Okay, on the time you can use G for movement, right? You can go for Alt G. See, Alt G clears everything and it will take back to the default value. Okay, this is the default in the right side you can see. So G, I change the default value. Okay, if I have to go back, then you can use Alt G. In the same way, if you have done rotation, and if you want to come back, you can use the shortcut key Alt R. That's it. Okay, you want to use a combination of Alt. And now if I want to move this geometry in exact this red line means x-axis, you can use the shortcut. Click one time on the middle mouse, one time. Okay, just position okay towards the red and click one time. See, now it is snapped to this red axis. So right click to deselect. The same way G, if I want to move in y axis, okay, just move in y axis while moving your cursor in the y approx, just click middle mouse. See, it snaps. You can also go with the shortcut key, like when you are moving with a G, you can tell X, it moves only in X, or you can tell Y, it will move only in Y. The same thing is also applied for rotation and scale even. Let's add another mesh. I'll just go here, add another sphere. Now we have light, camera, and two geometries. So I want to select the rest of all other geometry except this one. So on that time, you can go to the select and you can tell invert all my selection. Okay, so we can use this invert all my selection, or A is the shortcut to select all, A, or Alt A to deselect. So you can see all these three here. Very useful. Another option which you want to try it. And the one more which is very useful that you want to explore is this one, object transform. See, this one we know, like move, rotate, scale. This is the very useful option, align object. So we know, we are very much familiar of this tool, right? In Photoshop and in even 3ds Max also got this align option. Very useful option. Like let's align this geometry. So I'll create one more. You require more than one to align and do the experiment. That is very important. Okay, so let's select this two geometry, both. Go to object, go to transform, and you want to click align. So once you click align, nothing is happening, right? But you need to check always in the left side bottom, there is one extra option. I'll show you one more. See, when you create any geometry, keep in mind, if you want some properties, let's say for example torus, I have created the geometry, but where is the properties of the geometry? You should always see in the left side, add a torus, there is a option. Okay, always keep in mind, whatever you do, if you want to always find left side bottom, there will be some properties. So there you can go, you can tell like how many segments you require. Okay, and all those properties you will get. Okay, keep in mind, anything you create, say once you deselect, gone. Okay, so keep in mind, when you create, you can always go through this option. Okay, in the same way, let's add another geometry. For example, let's add a torus. Okay, let us record at the previous value. So I want to align these two. Let's say let's position somewhere randomly. Okay, so I'll select this two, go object, transform, align. Now where you want to see the option, left side bottom. Okay, so there you got the option. So here I can tell like I want to align both in center, align mode to center of the geometry, but nothing is happening. You need to select the axis, which axis you want to align center to center. Like if I tell Y, see here, now in the Y it is aligned center to center, but not in X axis. So in the Y it's got, in the X it's not in center. So you can tell I want to even add X. Okay, but y is gone. So what you want to do is you need to shift and add the selection. Shift is always to add the selection. Okay, so hold shift and add the selection. Now it is added in both axes, x and y. The same way you can also tell hold shift and click on Z. Now we added all three. So it is exactly aligned center in all three axes. Now let's cover some of these tools. So I have now selected the geometry. First, before that, let's have a preparation. So I'll select the geometry and I'll just little bit rotate this geometry in one of these axes. Okay, and now you can see the gizmo. Okay, the gizmo is according to the word center and according to the word axis, word transform actions. Okay, what does that mean? See, the geometry we have already rotated in this direction, right? But still our gizmo is pointing in this direction. Let's select the move tool. So even the move tool is, see, it's moving in according to the word transformation axis. So that options you can change it here. You can see there is a global option. It's called transform orientation options. Okay, so you can go and change it to local. When you change it to local, now you can see, now we can move this according to the local axis. So very useful option when you are doing the model and even for the animation purpose. Okay, so global according to the word orientation and local according to the local of the geometry orientation. And one more also very useful, you can just explore all others. The another very useful is this one, view. View is according to our view. So if I click on this view, so it always orients, okay, according to the view, right? So let's say go to the rotation. Let's go to the global. See, this is according to the global axis. Okay, and let's change it to the local. See, this is according to the local of the geometry. Okay, so let's scale this to make you to understand much better. So I have scaled according to the local way. Okay, the same thing. If you are not using this and if it is in a global and if you try to scale, see what kind of scale you are getting. Something like a skew kind of scaling. But if I want to scale in one axis, the local direction, change it to local. Now I can do it better. The same way in the rotation also. So this rotation is totally different. You can see that the rotation of this. If I change it to global, see this rotation is totally different. It is according to the word transform. This is according to the local transform. So both are different. So very useful. Explore this like how I showed. And let's go back again for the view. Like for example, in this case, I want to just rotate. Okay. So if you are even in the local, you will get a different local axis where I cannot handle it properly. But you can see there is one white color. You can use this white to get the view axis always. Okay. So the same thing they are given here, view. See, according to this view axis, I can rotate this. View rotation is different, and this view rotation is actually completely according to the local axis. This is according to the global axis. So explore this global, local, very important. You can add on one more view and you can explore it. So let's bring everything back, all this rotation, the reset key is Alt and R. It is back. The next one is another very important. It's related to the transform pivot. Let's say snap this to one of this axis, move the geometry up. Now the geometry's pivot is here, means the origin is here, right? So if I scale this geometry like this, everything is happening from the origin center, right? But I want that calculation to happen from other property. Like let's undo this. Let's go to the rotation tool. See, this rotation is also happening from the origin of the geometry, right? But I want to rotate from the below surface of the geometry. One we need to change the origin. The second, we have a very simple way of using this shortcut of changing the transform pivot point. So I can change this pivot point, okay, temporarily. Instead of origin of the geometry, I can change it to like 3D cursor, for example. So let's go here. Let's click on the 3D cursor. See, now I am transforming according to the 3D cursor. So this is different, right? So this is the default one, bounding, box center. This rotation is different. Now I want to rotate from the 3D cursor area. So I can change it to telling I want to rotate from the 3D cursor. So again, this is, so use this combination, okay, and it will help you to do modeling and animation better. So let's come back. And there are other important also, like individual origin is also important, and median is similar to the bounding. Individual and active is another different. So let's have some example on it. Let's duplicate this geometry. So please duplicate, or we'll add a new geometry. Let's add one more new geometry and I'll position it here. So after this, I'll talk about the duplicate also. We'll see how to duplicate with different properties. Now I'm going to select all these three geometry, okay, and you can see here the gizmo. When I select these two, automatically we got the pivot point of the transformation in between these two geometry. If I select this, the pivot point is somewhere here, right? Let's go to the top view to understand better. Now I'll take the rotation tool. Now I'm going to rotate this geometry. See, the rotation is happening from the transform pivot point, right? So I don't want to rotate like this from the transform pivot point. I want to rotate from my active point. So active point means what? The last selection. Okay, I'll select this and I'll hold this, and the last selection is this one. So from this point, I want to rotate these two geometry. So on that time I can tell active element. So this is my last active element. From this, I can start rotating this geometry. See, like this, from this active element. Okay. Or this is another which is very useful, individual origin. Individual origin is, I want to rotate the geometry in their own places. I don't want to rotate like globally. I want to rotate in their own places. So that time this individual origin is very useful. See here, all are rotating in its own axis, but I'm not able to see this because that is here, right? Anyway, it looks same. So can you see now? See, so all are rotating in its individual origin. So let's bring it back to the bonding center. Let's see, reset. Let's see some more. Snapping. This is one very important, and you want to see here. So I'll select this geometry. I'll switch on the snapping. Take the move tool. So snapping is on, and what all snapping is on, you can see next to that icon. Just select, and you can see what all it is going to calculate. Okay, so like it is calculating the increment of your snapping. So if I move, see, it is calculating the increment of my snapping, and it's snapping exactly to the increment values. Like you can see, it is snapping from one grid unit to another. Sometimes what will happen without this, if I move my geometry, okay, now see, it is not exactly on this grid line, it is somewhere in between, right? Somewhere in between, anywhere, like do like this. Okay, now if I want to snap, you can just switch on, and if you snap, see, it is still in increment. If you now do this, always snap to the increment of wherever it has positioned to the one grid unit value. See, but I don't want this to happen. I want to exactly position on this grid line. On that time, what you want to do, you want to go here and switch on absolute grid snap. So once you switch on this absolute grid snap, and now if we move, see now what happened, it is not moving according to the position of the increment, it is moving and snap it to the grid line. Now it will snap to the grid lines. Okay, got it now, understood? I'll undo it again. See here, this is very useful option. So if I turn off and now if I move, see it's not snapping on the grid line. Okay, some case this is useful, and some case I want to position exactly on this grid line. Okay, on that time without snap, if I try to position, it is very difficult, very hard, like whether I have positioned exactly on the line or not, I really don't know. On that time this will be useful. Switch on go absolute grid snap. When you switch on absolute grid snap, it will go and snap on the absolute grid line like this. So now let's see how to duplicate the geometry. Select geometry, and there are two ways. Okay, one is shift D. So I'll hold shift D and I can duplicate. Okay, and I don't want to place randomly. Okay, I want to position exactly to the axis. So this is Y axis, so I can click Y and I have positioned that in Y axis. Done. So this side I have done a duplicate using the shift D. Okay, there are two types. The another type of duplicating is alt D. So this time I'm going to use alt D option and I'll move in this axis. I'll click on X and I'll position. So this time I use it alt D. So both are duplicate only. Okay, both we can handle it separately, like movement, rotation, scale, all those you can apply and nothing will affect for any other geometry. But with the alt D is a linked duplicate. Shift D is a unique duplicate. Okay, alt D is a linker. That means it will be having some relation with the original geometry from where we have duplicated. So where you can see that relation, you want to go for the edit mode. Okay, once you go for the edit mode, and if you select any of this component and if you just move, and you can see now what is happening. So in the edit mode, if I do any changes for the one of the geometry, the both geometry are getting affected. Keep in mind, it is only for the edit mode. It will not affect for any of this. Like if I do the scaling, see, it's not affecting. It affects only for the edit mode value. Okay, so edit mode, anything you do, it applies for. That is the use of doing alt D duplicate. Shift D is always unique. Okay, understood? No, like one question will arise, like how to make this unique now. Okay, this is enough, like what I have, what I want. Like for example, you have created a legs of chairs. Okay, 4 legs, right, with the same design, and you want on the time you can keep it alt D, and one of the leg you want to now completely change, make it unique. Okay, even like for example, even in pillars, we have done same kind of pillars using alt D. Now you want to make one of the pillar unique. So how to remove this relation? To remove the relation, you need to select the geometry, then go to the object, and you need to find relation. Here it is, relation. Then you need to go to the make single user, and this both are binded to the object data. So you need to click this once, and the both relation will break. Okay, and then now go to edit mode, and now if you see, so now we have breaker the relation between these two. Okay, it looks in more steps now. I'll show you much better and very even useful option. Okay, so let's delete this. Let's take the same geometry. So one is shift D and another one is alt D. I'll just position D randomly. Now if you go, there is a relation. I'm just cross checking everything so that you will understand. Now where to find visually, you want to see in the right side. Okay, in the outliner it will not show anything. In the right side, you need to find the object data property. This one, this is called object data, the green icon. So I'll click on this icon. This is called object data property icon. And here, uh, while selecting this geometry, you can see there is a value here 2. Means this is telling this is linked to 2 geometries. This property is linked to 2 geometry. If you select this one, see there is no number. If you select this one, I got a number. That means it is both are linked. So if you click this number, it will unlink. Very easy, right? And easy to understand also. So now it is unlinked. Both are having separate geometry. Cross check. Tab is for edit mode, and G, see, it's unlinked. I'll tell now Shift D. I'll snap it in Y axis. Now I want to repeat the same thing. Okay, anything if you want to repeat anything, okay, not only for the duplicate, anything if you want to repeat, you want to press Shift with R. Okay, Shift R is for repeating. See, it is repeating the same thing. What many duplicates, and it has recorded with the same repeating action value. Okay, I told anything, not only for the duplicate, right? So for example, I will move this little bit top, and I want to repeat the same. See, Shift R, it is repeating the same. So anything, any action, if you want to repeat, you can use a Shift R, not only for duplicate. Got it? So now we got multiple geometries. You can see in the right side outliner, see there are many, it is creating only for this many. And when we start doing our model, like interior, exterior, all those, we will be having lots and lots of geometries. We need to organize everything. So this outliner is very helpful to organize. Okay, so what you can do, you can select all this. See, when I'm selecting, even the light is also selecting. You can even deselect, but I'll just go for the option here, select by type all the meshes. Okay, and all this I want to put it in a group, like in Photoshop we arrange like that. So let's create a group first, like right click, new collection. Okay, so I'll tell right click first, new collection, so that you can see. So I created my collection, then I will just click and drag and drop it inside, and I can even rename all this or my cubes, anything. Okay, and you can just close this rollout. Okay, now you can handle it separately, or you can handle it using the outliner, like hiding, or you can tell I don't want to render this using this camera icon. If you switch off, it will not render in the output. And there are some more icons which you can turn it on, very useful. You can go here, there is a filter icon. You can click the filter icon, and you can see there is some selectability which we have seen here, right? So you can go and switch this, so that that will add on. So now I can click this and tell I don't want this entire thing should be selected. Or when I'm dragging, see here the light is selecting, I can tell I don't want my light to be selected when I'm grabbing it. So very useful options. Just explore all this. And one more before starting our next modeling video. If I select this object, and let's say I want to concentrate on this object and I want to do the model, but when I'm rotating, see these are all overlapping, right? And I cannot see only this geometry. On that case, there is one very good option, like isolate view in 3ds Max. So there is one option here, isolation view kind of thing in Max and Maya. For that, you need to go for view and local view, and you want to click on this one, toggle local view. Then what happened? It is isolated. We are seeing only this, and if you see here, it's not hidden actually. It's called isolation mode. Okay. Then if you want to see this back, then you can go and you can even turn on. You can also select more than 2, and you can isolate. You can also use the shortcut key /. So I'll click on the /. I can see only these 2. Now I want to even isolate this geometry, for example. So I can apply the same, like I want to tell remove from last view. Okay, everything is isolated, only this I'm seeing. To bring everything back, forward slash, everything is fine. So these are all the very essential tool till now from class 1 and class 2. We have seen many important essential user interface. Explore this, just play around. From next class, we are going to start our modeling. Okay. So explore, enjoy, and we'll see in the next class.